I was coming home from work, eager to celebrate my wife's birthday. The day had been long, but the thought of surprising Lisa with the necklace I'd hidden away in my briefcase kept my spirits high. As I stepped through the front door, the sounds of laughter and chatter drifted from the kitchen, where Lisa and our daughter Kate were apparently deep in conversation. "Honey, that Big Johnson you arranged last night was incredible. I didn't know your friend could be so talented. I want more." Lisa's voice rang out, carrying a tone of excitement that immediately caught my attention. Intrigued, I paused in the hallway, out of sight but able to hear every word. Lisa continued, her voice a mixture of delight and something I couldn't quite place. "He really surprised me. It was unexpected." My heart skipped a beat. Who was she talking about? I wondered, my mind racing through the possibilities. Then Kate's voice, youthful and earnest, broke through my thoughts. "I knew you'd love it, Mom. He's perfect for you. Not like Dad." Perfect? Friend? What was going on? A rush of confusion and suspicion washed over me as I strained to understand their conversation. It wasn't just the words, they held a weight, a hidden meaning that eluded me. Quietly, I edged closer to the kitchen, my pulse quickening with every step. My wife and daughter were close, sharing secrets perhaps too intimate for my ears. And yet, their words hung in the air, refusing to make sense. My mind flickered back to the past weeks, the odd late-night calls, Lisa's sudden interest in dressing up for girls' nights out, and the subtle changes in Kate's demeanor when she thought I wasn't looking. Each moment now seemed like a piece of a puzzle, slowly forming a picture I didn't want to see. Lisa's laughter echoed, a sound that had always brought me comfort, now tinged with suspicion. Could they be planning something behind my back? A party surprise, perhaps? Or was there more to this newfound admiration for a talented friend? I needed answers, concrete proof before confronting them. This wasn't just about suspicion anymore. It was about protecting my family's integrity, my trust in them. After what felt like an eternity, I retreated quietly, my mind reeling with questions and doubts. Determined to uncover the truth, I resolved to keep a close watch, gather evidence discreetly, and confront them only when I had undeniable proof. That night, as I lay in bed next to Lisa, who slept soundly beside me, I stared at the ceiling, unable to shake off the unsettling feeling that had settled in my gut. The necklace nestled in my briefcase suddenly felt like a heavy burden, a symbol of love overshadowed by doubt. Tomorrow, I promised myself, tomorrow I would begin my search for the truth. Over the next few days, I watched Lisa and Kate closely, observing their interactions with a newfound vigilance. Every secretive glance, every hushed phone call, and every late-night outing became a piece of a puzzle that was slowly revealing a truth I wasn't prepared to face. One evening, after Lisa had gone to bed, I quietly slipped into the kitchen where her phone lay charging on the counter. The dim glow of the screen illuminated the room faintly as I cautiously unlocked it. My heart pounded in my chest as I scrolled through her messages, hoping against hope that I was wrong. There it was, a series of messages from someone named Jake. Messages that left little room for doubt. "You were amazing last night," read one message. "I can't stop thinking about you," read another. The words pierced through me like shards of glass. My worst fears were confirmed. Lisa was having an affair. Anger and hurt battled within me as I scrolled through more messages, each one revealing a side of my wife I never knew existed. How could she betray me like this? And Kate, what role did she play in all of this? My hands trembled as I took screenshots of the incriminating messages, ensuring I had evidence to confront them both. The weight of the betrayal settled heavily on my shoulders, but amidst the pain, a steely resolve took hold. The next day, I confronted Kate. She was in her room, buried in her textbooks when I knocked softly on the door. "Dad?" She looked up, surprise and apprehension flickering in her eyes. "Kate, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. She hesitated, then closed her laptop and gestured for me to sit beside her on the bed. "What's wrong, Dad?" I held up Lisa's phone, displaying the messages. "Do you want to explain this?" Kate's face paled as she scanned the screen, her eyes widening in realization. Dad, I can explain." "Explain what, Kate?" That you're helping your mother cheat on me? The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. It's not like that, Dad, she protested, tears welling up in her eyes. Mom, she was lonely, and Jake, he's just a friend. A friend who sends her messages like these? I retorted, my voice sharp. Kate's shoulders slumped. I thought I was helping her, Dad. She seemed so unhappy, and I wanted her to be happy again. My anger softened slightly as I saw the guilt and confusion etched on her face. She was just a young woman caught in the middle of her parents' crumbling marriage. Kate, I understand you wanted to help your mom, I said more gently. But this isn't the way to do it. We need to talk to Mom together. She nodded, wiping away tears. I'm sorry, Dad. I never meant for any of this to happen. I know, Kate, I said, placing a hand on her shoulder. But we need to face this together. That evening, Lisa returned home from work, oblivious to the storm brewing in her wake. Kate and I sat in the living room, waiting silently as she entered, her smile faltering when she saw our serious expressions. What's going on? Lisa asked cautiously, setting down her bag. I stood up, holding out Lisa's phone towards her. We need to talk. Lisa's eyes flickered from me to Kate, confusion giving way to alarm as she saw the screenshots on the screen. Tom, what is this? You tell me, Lisa, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. Who is Jake? Lisa's face paled, her hands trembling as she took the phone from me. Tom, it's not what you think. Then tell me what it is, I demanded, my tone hardening. Lisa glanced at Kate, who sat silently beside me, her eyes downcast. Kate, maybe you should— No, Mom, Kate interrupted, her voice surprisingly firm. Dad deserves to know the truth. Lisa took a deep breath, her shoulders sagging in defeat. Tom, Jake he's just a friend. It's complicated. Complicated? I echoed, incredulous. How complicated can it be, Lisa? These messages— I know, Lisa admitted, tears welling up in her eyes. I messed up, Tom. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, I said quietly. And now we have to deal with it. The room fell silent, the weight of betrayal hanging heavily in the air. Lisa and I stared at each other, words unsaid but understood. The marriage we had built over years was now unraveling before our eyes. I need time to think, I finally said, turning away from Lisa's pleading gaze. I'll be staying at David's for a while. Lisa nodded silently, her eyes brimming with tears. Kate reached out to touch my arm as I passed, her expression a mix of sorrow and regret. I'm sorry, Dad, she whispered. I managed a weak smile, squeezing her hand gently before leaving the house. As I drove to David's, emotions churned inside me, anger, sadness, and a deep sense of loss. But amidst it all, a determination took root. I couldn't let this betrayal define me or destroy my family. The truth was out, and now I needed a plan to confront Lisa, to decide the fate of our marriage, and to protect Kate from the fallout of our shattered trust. One evening, unable to bear the weight of deception any longer, I entered the kitchen where Lisa and Kate were engrossed in conversation. The clink of glasses and the faint scent of dinner lingered in the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. Lisa and Kate turned to see me standing there, their faces registering shock as they sensed the gravity of the moment. What's going on? I demanded, my voice betraying both hurt and anger. Silence descended, thick and suffocating. Lisa's eyes darted between me and Kate, searching for words that could possibly justify the betrayal I had uncovered. Kate shifted uncomfortably, her guilt palpable even in the dim kitchen light. It's not what you think, Tom, Lisa finally managed, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and desperation. I held up a hand, cutting her off. Don't. Just don't. Turning away from their stunned silence, I walked out of the kitchen, leaving their pleas hanging in the air like unanswered questions. The truth was out, and with it, a clarity that demanded action. In the solitude of my study, I sank into my chair, emotions roiling within me. Betrayal, hurt, and a deep-seated resolve collided in a tumultuous storm. I needed a plan, a way to navigate through the shards of a shattered marriage and salvage what remained of our family. My thoughts turned to David, my best friend and confidant. He had been a steadfast presence throughout this ordeal, offering counsel and support when I needed it most. Without hesitation, I picked up the phone and dialed his number, knowing he would understand the gravity of the situation. "Hey, Tom. What's up?" David's voice, normally cheerful, held a note of concern. "David, I need to talk to you," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. "Of course, buddy. Come over," David replied, sensing the urgency in my tone. Minutes later, I found myself in David's living room, the weight of my confession heavy on my shoulders. I recounted everything: Lisa's affair, Kate's unwitting involvement, and the confrontation that had left me reeling with a mix of anger and hurt. David listened intently, his expression serious. "Tom, I'm so sorry you're going through this. But what do you want to do now?" I need to confront them," I replied, my jaw clenched with determination. "But not just that. I need to make them understand the consequences of their actions." David nodded thoughtfully. "What are you thinking?" A plan began to form in my mind, a plan that would turn Lisa's upcoming birthday into a reckoning, a moment of truth that would force her to face the fallout of her betrayal. "I'll wait," I said finally, the pieces falling into place. "I'll wait until her birthday. And then," David raised an eyebrow, sensing the resolve in my voice. "And then?" "And then, I'll give her a gift she won't forget," I said, a bitter edge to my words. The next few days passed in a haze of anticipation and careful planning. I maintained a facade of normalcy, even as the tension between Lisa and me simmered beneath the surface. Kate, caught in the crossfire of our strained interactions, retreated into a silence that spoke volumes. As Lisa's birthday approached, I prepared meticulously. I arranged for the divorce papers to be drawn up discreetly, hiding them in plain sight, waiting for the opportune moment to deliver them like a coup de grace. On the eve of her birthday, I watched Lisa as she slept, her features softened by slumber. The woman I had loved, trusted, and built a life with now seemed like a stranger, her betrayal etched into the lines of her face. The morning of her birthday dawned with a weight I could no longer carry alone. With a heavy heart, I made my decision. That evening, amidst the flickering candles and the warmth of gathered friends, I presented Lisa with a beautifully wrapped box. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation as she untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside lay not the expected jewelry or cherished memento, but the stark reality of our shattered marriage, divorce papers, neatly folded and waiting. Lisa's smile faltered, her fingers trembling as she picked up the papers. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then to a dawning horror as she read the words that sealed our fate. "Tom, what is this?" Her voice quivered, eyes wide with shock. "Happy birthday, Lisa," I said quietly, my voice devoid of the warmth she had once known. "Consider this my gift to you." The room fell silent, the air thick with tension as our friends exchanged uncertain glances. Lisa looked up at me, tears brimming in her eyes. "You can't be serious," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. "I'm dead serious," I replied, my tone firm. "This is the consequence of your actions, Lisa." Kate stood nearby, her face a mask of guilt and remorse. "Dad, please, not now, Kate," I said, my gaze never leaving Lisa's. "This is between your mother and me." Lisa's hands shook as she clutched the papers, her voice trembling with emotion. "Tom, please, let's talk about this." "There's nothing left to talk about," I said, my resolve hardening. "I trusted you, Lisa. We trusted you." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Lisa to face the fallout of her choices. The party dissolved into whispers and murmurs, friends offering hesitant condolences as they departed one by one. Alone in the quiet aftermath, I packed a bag and left the house, the weight of my decision settling heavily on my shoulders. As I drove away, I glimpsed Kate standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. I couldn't bear to look back. After the confrontation on Lisa's birthday, I found solace in the support of my friend David. He had been a rock throughout the turmoil, offering counsel and strength when I needed it most. Together, we hatched a plan, a meticulously crafted strategy to confront Lisa and ensure that justice was served. David's living room became our war room, scattered with legal papers, timelines, and the damning evidence of Lisa's infidelity. As we pored over messages and receipts, the reality of our task sank in, the dissolution of a marriage that had once held promise, now tarnished by betrayal. "We need to be strategic about this, Tom," David said, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We have to ensure that Lisa understands the gravity of her actions." I nodded grimly, my mind racing with the details of our plan. The divorce papers need to be impeccable, no room for loopholes. And the timing, it has to be perfect. David tapped his pen against the table, deep in thought. "We'll file for divorce citing irreconcilable differences and infidelity. The evidence is strong enough to support our case." As we drafted the legal documents, every word carried weight, a testament to the betrayal that had shattered our lives. David's expertise in law proved invaluable, guiding me through the complex maze of proceedings with a clarity I desperately needed. "We also need to consider custody arrangements for Kate," David suggested, his voice gentle yet practical. "She's caught in the middle of this, and we have to prioritize her well-being." My heart clenched at the mention of Kate. She had unwittingly been drawn into her mother's affair, torn between loyalty to her parents and the devastating truth she now faced. I made a silent vow to protect her from the fallout as much as possible. Days turned into nights as we finalized our plan, each moment spent preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The weight of impending change hung heavy in the air, a storm gathering momentum as Lisa remained oblivious to the storm about to break. On the eve of our next move, I found myself standing outside our home, gazing up at the familiar windows bathed in soft lamplight. Inside, Lisa was likely going about her evening, unaware of the storm brewing just beyond her reach. I steeled myself with resolve as I entered the house, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the quiet hallway. Lisa was in the kitchen, her back turned to me as she prepared dinner. The sight of her, so familiar yet now tinged with betrayal, stirred conflicting emotions within me. "Tom," she greeted me cautiously, her voice tinged with apprehension. "We need to talk," I said, my tone clipped. Lisa turned to face me, concern etched on her features. "Is everything okay?" "No, Lisa, everything is not okay," I replied, my voice betraying the simmering anger beneath the surface. "We need to discuss what happens next." She hesitated, her eyes searching mine for answers she feared to find. "Tom, please, can't we work this out?" I shook my head, the weight of our broken trust bearing down on me. "There's nothing left to work out, Lisa. Not after what I discovered." Her shoulders slumped, a silent admission of guilt. "I never meant to hurt you, Tom. I was just lost." "Lost?" I echoed bitterly. "Is that what you call it? Because from where I stand, it looks like you made a choice to betray our marriage." Lisa's eyes filled with tears, her voice barely a whisper. "I know I made a mistake, but please, don't do this. This isn't just about you and me anymore," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "It's about trust, about honesty. And right now, those are things we no longer have." The conversation hung between us, heavy with unspoken truths and shattered dreams. I turned away, unable to bear the sight of her pain any longer. "I've spoken to my lawyer," I said finally, my words measured. "We're filing for divorce." Lisa gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. "Tom, please, don't do this." "I've made up my mind," I said firmly, the resolve in my voice unyielding. "It's over, Lisa." With that, I walked out of the kitchen, leaving Lisa standing alone amidst the wreckage of our marriage. Outside, the night air was cool against my skin, a stark contrast to the heat of emotions raging inside me. Back at David's, we finalized the last details of our plan. The divorce papers were ready, meticulously prepared to ensure a swift and decisive end to our marriage. Every legal loophole was closed, every contingency accounted for. "It's done," David said, handing me the final documents. "Are you sure about this, Tom?" I nodded, my jaw set with determination. It's the only way forward, David. For both of us. The next morning, I returned home to find Lisa in the living room, her eyes red-rimmed from tears. Kate hovered nearby, torn between her loyalty to both parents. "Tom," Lisa said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. "Please, can't we talk about this?" "There's nothing left to say, Lisa," I replied, my tone gentle yet resolute. "The papers are already with my lawyer." Lisa's face crumpled in despair, the weight of reality crashing down around us. "I never meant to hurt you, Tom. Please believe me." "I did believe you," I said quietly, my heart heavy with sorrow. "But trust is earned, Lisa. And right now, I can't trust you." Kate stepped forward, her voice wavering with emotion. "Dad, please, don't do this. I don't want us to fall apart." I knelt beside her, taking her hands in mine. "Kate, this isn't about you. Your mom and I, we have to figure things out." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I love you both." "I love you too, Kate," I said softly, pulling her into a tight embrace. "And no matter what happens, that will never change." As I stood up, I met Lisa's gaze, seeing the pain and regret etched in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Lisa," I said quietly, "but I have to do what's best for me now." With that, I left the house, leaving behind the shattered remnants of a life that once held promise. The road ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges yet to come. But amidst the rubble of broken trust, a flicker of hope burned within me, a hope for a future rebuilt on honesty and healing. The day of Lisa's birthday arrived with an uneasy tension hanging over our home. The usual bustle of preparations felt hollow against the backdrop of impending revelation. Guests arrived throughout the evening, their cheerful greetings a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within. I watched from a distance as Lisa mingled with friends, her smile strained and brittle. Kate hovered nearby, her eyes flickering between her mother and me, sensing the unspoken tension that threatened to spill over at any moment. As the evening progressed, I found myself drawn to the outskirts of the gathering, unable to engage in the facade of celebration. David's reassuring presence at my side was a lifeline, a silent reminder of the plan we had meticulously crafted. "It's time," David murmured, his voice barely audible over the din of conversation. I nodded, steeling myself for the confrontation that would redefine this evening. With measured steps, I approached Lisa, who stood near the center of the room, her back to the crowd. "Lisa," I said quietly, causing her to turn towards me, her expression a mix of apprehension and confusion. "Tom," she replied cautiously, her gaze searching mine for answers she feared to find. "I have something for you," I said evenly, holding out a beautifully wrapped box. Her brow furrowed in uncertainty as she accepted the gift, fingers tracing the ribbon with hesitant movements. The room seemed to hold its breath as Lisa untied the bow and lifted the lid, revealing the contents within. Her breath caught in her throat as she pulled out the papers, divorce papers, stark and unyielding in their finality. The color drained from her face, replaced by a stunned silence that echoed through the room. What is this?" Lisa stammered, her voice trembling as she glanced up at me, eyes wide with disbelief. "Happy birthday, Lisa," I said coldly, my words cutting through the air like shards of ice. "Consider this my gift to you." Gasps and whispers erupted around us as the reality of the moment settled over our guests. Friends exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of how to respond to the unraveling drama before them. Some glanced sympathetically at Lisa, while others looked to me with a mixture of surprise and curiosity. Lisa's hands shook as she clutched the papers, her voice barely a whisper. "Tom, please, this isn't the time or place." "There's no better time than now," I replied, my tone devoid of the warmth she once knew. "You brought this upon yourself, Lisa." Tears welled in her eyes, a mixture of anger and fear swirling within them. "You can't just do this." "I can," I said firmly, my resolve unyielding. "And I have." The room fell silent once more, the weight of our words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. Lisa looked around, searching for support, but finding only a sea of faces reflecting the gravity of our shattered marriage. Kate approached tentatively, her voice wavering with emotion. "Dad, please, don't do this." I turned to her, my heart breaking at the sight of my daughter caught in the crossfire of our broken family. "Kate, I'm sorry you have to see this, but your mother and we can't go on like this." Lisa turned to Kate, her voice pleading. "Sweetheart, go to your room. This is between your father and me." Kate hesitated, torn between her loyalty to both parents. "Mom, Kate, please," Lisa urged, tears streaming down her face. "Just go." Reluctantly, Kate nodded and retreated from the room, leaving behind a palpable sense of sorrow and regret. I watched her go, my heart heavy with the weight of my decision. Turning back to Lisa, I found her staring at me with a mixture of defiance and resignation. "You've made your point, Tom. Is this what you really want?" "It's what's necessary," I replied evenly, my voice softening despite the turmoil inside me. "For both of us." Lisa's shoulders sagged, the fight draining from her as she folded the papers and set them down on a nearby table. "I never thought it would come to this." "Neither did I admitted, the ache in my chest unyielding. "But here we are." The remainder of the evening passed in a blur of strained conversations and awkward goodbyes. Guests departed one by one, offering sympathetic murmurs and hesitant pats on the shoulder. David remained by my side throughout, a pillar of support amidst the wreckage of our shattered lives. As the last guest left, I found myself alone with Lisa in the silence of our home. The air was heavy with unspoken words and shattered dreams, a stark reminder of the love we had once shared. "I'm sorry, Lisa," I said quietly, breaking the silence that stretched between us. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm sorry too, Tom, for everything." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving Lisa to confront the aftermath of our betrayal alone. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with challenges yet to come. But amidst the rubble of broken trust, a flicker of hope burned within me, a hope for a future rebuilt on honesty and healing. As I packed my bags, my daughter burst into my room, tears streaming down her face. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." I sighed, pausing in my packing to look at her with a mix of sadness and resignation. "Kate, it's not just about apologies now. There are consequences to our actions, and we all have to face them." She approached me tentatively, reaching out to touch my arm. "Please don't leave, Dad. We can work through this." I shook my head gently. "I need some time to think, Kate. It's not just about what happened. It's about trust and rebuilding that." Her lower lip trembled, and she blinked back tears. "But Mom is devastated. Can't we talk about this as a family?" "I wish it were that simple," I murmured, my voice strained. "Right now, I need to process everything. I'll be staying with David for a while." Kate nodded, her expression crestfallen. "I understand. Just don't shut us out completely, Dad." "I won't," I assured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I love you, Kate. That will never change." With a heavy heart, I resumed packing, ignoring the ache in my chest as I prepared to leave the home that once felt like the center of our family's world. Kate lingered in the doorway, watching silently as I gathered my belongings. After what felt like an eternity, I zipped up my suitcase and hoisted it off the bed. Turning to Kate, I managed a small, sad smile. "Take care of Mom, okay?" She nodded silently, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I will." Leaving my daughter standing there, I made my way downstairs. Lisa was in the living room, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. She looked up as I entered, a mixture of hurt and regret written across her face. "Tom," she began, her voice breaking. I held up a hand, cutting off her words. "Lisa, we need time apart. This isn't easy for either of us." She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I never wanted to hurt you, Tom. Please believe me." "I know," I said softly, my heart aching at the pain in her eyes. "But trust is something that takes time to rebuild." Lisa reached out tentatively, as if wanting to touch me, but stopped herself. "What happens now?" "I'm going to stay with David for a while," I explained gently. "We both need space to figure things out." Her shoulders slumped, the weight of our fractured marriage evident in every line of her face. I don't know if I can do this without you. You're stronger than you think, I said, my voice filled with reassurance. Take care of Kate. We'll figure out the rest as we go. With that, I turned and walked towards the door, pausing only briefly to look back at Lisa. She stood there, a solitary figure in the dimly lit room, her gaze following me with a mix of longing and resignation. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I took a deep breath, trying to steady my emotions. The road ahead was uncertain, but amidst the pain and heartache, a glimmer of hope flickered, a hope for healing, for understanding, and eventually, for forgiveness. The divorce proceedings were tumultuous, with emotions running high on both sides. Lisa fought tooth and nail, trying to sway the terms in her favor, but with David's unwavering support, I remained steadfast and focused on a fair resolution. It's not easy, Tom, David said one evening over dinner at his place, but you're doing the right thing by staying strong through all of this. I nodded, picking at my food without much appetite. I just want it to be over. For everyone's sake. David placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. It will be soon. Hang in there. Months passed in a blur of legal consultations, paperwork, and tense negotiations. Each day brought its challenges, but I found solace in routine and the support of friends like David, who kept me grounded amidst the storm. One sunny afternoon, as I sorted through boxes in my new apartment, a sense of peace settled over me. The divorce papers had been finalized that morning, marking the end of a painful chapter in my life. I took a deep breath, relishing the quiet and the freedom to chart my own course. A knock on the door startled me out of my thoughts. I opened it to find Kate standing there, hesitating on the threshold. "Dad," she said softly, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "Can we talk?" I stepped aside, inviting her in with a nod. She entered cautiously, glancing around the unfamiliar space. "Nice place," she commented, trying to break the tension. "Thanks," I replied, gesturing for her to take a seat. "What brings you here, Kate?" She fidgeted with her hands, searching for the right words. I wanted to apologize for everything that happened. I sat down opposite her, studying her face. "It wasn't just you, Kate. We all played a part." She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I should have been more honest with you. Mom, too." "We all make mistakes," I said gently, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "What matters now is how we move forward." Kate nodded again, her shoulders sagging with relief. "I've missed you, Dad. Things haven't been the same without you." "I've missed you too," I admitted, a lump forming in my throat, but I needed time to sort things out. She nodded understandingly. "Are you okay now?" I smiled, though it felt bittersweet. "I'm getting there. It's a process." We talked for hours that afternoon, catching up on the months we had spent apart. Kate shared stories about school and her plans for the future. I listened, grateful for the chance to reconnect with my daughter. As evening fell, Kate stood up to leave, hesitating at the door. "Dad," she began tentatively, "do you think we can try to be a family again?" I considered her words carefully, feeling a glimmer of hope stir within me. "I think we can try," I said finally, a weight lifting off my chest. She smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Thank you, Dad, for giving me another chance." "Thank you for coming," I replied sincerely. "Let's take it one step at a time." With that, Kate left, leaving me standing in the doorway, filled with a newfound sense of optimism. The road ahead would be challenging, but as I closed the door behind her, I knew that together we could navigate whatever lay ahead. As the months passed, I focused on healing and rebuilding my life. David remained by my side, offering support and encouragement as I navigated the challenges of starting over. Together, we explored new hobbies and reconnected with old friends, finding moments of joy amidst the recovery process. One crisp autumn morning, I sat on the porch of my new home, sipping coffee and watching the leaves rustle in the breeze. The air was fresh with promise, and I felt a sense of peace settle over me. "Tom," David called from across the yard, walking over with a smile. "You look like a new man." I chuckled, gesturing for him to join me. "Feels like it sometimes." "It's been a journey." David nodded knowingly, taking a seat beside me. You've come a long way since everything happened. Yeah, I agreed, reflecting on the challenges and growth. I never thought I'd be here, starting over. You deserve this, David said sincerely, clapping me on the shoulder. You've handled everything with grace and strength. I smiled gratefully, appreciating his words more than he knew. Thanks, David. I couldn't have done it without you. We sat in companionable silence for a while, soaking in the peaceful surroundings. The past felt distant now, a chapter closed but not forgotten. I had learned valuable lessons about trust, resilience, and the importance of self-care. Later that evening, I received a call from Kate. Her voice was tentative yet hopeful as she apologized once more for the pain she had caused. We talked for a long time, sharing our hopes and fears, and slowly rebuilding our fractured relationship. In the weeks that followed, Lisa reached out as well, expressing regret and a desire to find closure. We met for coffee, keeping the conversation light yet honest, acknowledging the past without dwelling on it. It was a step towards forgiveness and acceptance, allowing us both to move forward with peace in our hearts. With each passing day, I felt lighter, freer. The weight of resentment and hurt began to lift, replaced by a renewed sense of optimism and possibility. I immersed myself in work, taking on new projects and challenges with a newfound enthusiasm. One afternoon, as I sorted through old photographs in my study, I stumbled upon a picture of our family from happier times. I smiled wistfully, tracing the faces of Lisa and Kate with fondness. Despite the pain of the past, I cherished the memories we had shared. Looking ahead, I knew that rebuilding trust would take time, but I was willing to invest in the future. With David's encouragement, I considered joining a local community group, eager to connect with others and give back to the community that had supported me during tough times. As the seasons changed and winter melted into spring, I found myself looking forward to what lay ahead. Life was far from perfect, but I had found a sense of peace and purpose in the journey of rebuilding. I was ready to embrace the future, leaving the past where it belonged, behind me.